Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in day about Weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 3637 of 2025. And yes, you heard me right. We are talking about the combined issue of Jump today. Of course, this is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Odon Festival currently going on in Japan, or at least it will be whenever issue number 37 was supposed to come out. So because of that, they just shoved them together. I mean, Jump has been doing this for the longest time. I mean, I started reading Jump 5 years ago. They were doing it then. I'm sure they've been doing this for like the past 40, 50 years, or however long Jump has really been going, right? This is really nothing surprising by any means of the word, right? But of course, we have a lot of really good manga series to talk about. Of course, like, hey, that's what the whole point of this series is me sitting down and talking about manga series. And today we have good old 15 series to talk about. We have literally everything I'm currently reading in Jump is in the magazine this week, which, hey, that's pretty nice. And of course, we have Ruri Dragon also because it's technically in V-Jump. It is technically still part of, like, the regular Shonen Jump. I mean, the Weekly Shonen Jump wiki counts it. So, of course, we talk about Ruri Dragon here. But it's also weird being that we had a chapter of Ruri Dragon last week. And I know it was on hiatus for, like, 2 months. But, like, still, that's pretty awesome and cool to see, right? But we have, like, Ruri Dragon, just everything else. Of course, all of the newbies, Harukaze, Mound, Kaitagami, Ekiden Bros, Ping Pong Peril. I almost called it PPPPPPP or whatever that series was by. I think his name was, what, Mapolo 5 from a few years ago, but this is Ping Pong Peril right down here. But either way, with a combined issue of Weekly Shonen Jump, that means that we have a really cool thing to talk about today, and that is, of course, the Weekly Shonen Jump shared color page, or shared cover, pretty much, right? And of course, we normally do this. It's literally all of the main characters from the Jump series just on there, like, hey. And we've had plenty of, like, scenarios in the past, like, oh, they're all going camping. Oh, they're going on a beach trip. Oh, in the winter issues, they're all getting ready for one of the festivals that happened there in the beginning of the year, and all of these other various things. And this week, let's move over to the Weekly Shonen Jump news account. We have a really, really awesome group cover, in my opinion, and that is, of course, all of the Jump leads with Pokemon. And the reason for this is there's a Pokemon game coming out later this year called Pokemon Legends ZA. It's based on the Kalos games, like there are these legend games where it's like pseudo-open world, like not turn-based, but more action RPG and all of that various stuff. And because that game is coming out later this year, hey, Jump said, let's do a collaboration, and because of that, we get this really awesome thing with all of the Jump heroines, or not all of the Jump heroines, all of the Jump characters with Pokemon partners here. Of course, we've got, like, iconic duos like Luffy and Pikachu, the two most popular characters in both of their respective things, pretty much, right? Hey, that makes sense. And then we have, like, a few uninspired ones, like, oh yeah, Chihiro with Tepig. I think that's Sakamoto from Sakamoto Days. I don't read that series, I'm not 100% sure, but they're with Chikorita. We have Chinatsu with Totodile. I'm like, oh hey, that's all fun and cool, but, like, that doesn't make sense for them to be with that Pokemon. And that is because those Pokemon are the starters for the upcoming games. So, like, hey, it sort of makes sense to promote them like that, right? But then we get to, like, oh, hey, do you want to talk about, like, inspired picks? Well, let's come over here and look at Ichi. Hey, look, he's with Gallade. You know the really fun thing about Gallade is, oh, wow, it's got Gardevoir, which is the female variant of that line, pretty much, right? And oh, if you have a male Ralts and pretty much, I almost said Digivolve, but evolve it all the way up to its final form, you get Gallade. And in the world of Ichi the Witch, all of the witches are females, and Ichi is the one male witch. It's like, oh, that's a really cool pick. And of course, we have a bunch of other ones coming over here, too. Akane with Wobbuffet, I do like that. Tokuyuki with Eevee. Nico with Clefairy, and like, oh hey, those are all pretty cool. I like all of them, right? Like, Tokuyuki with Eevee doesn't make the most sense, but it's still pretty fun at the end of the day. And then we have Roboco and Mega Blaziken. Does it make sense? No, but am I all here for it? Absolutely. We also have, like, oh hey, look, it's Kyoshi with Mega Gengar. And look at this Mega Gengar, and you cannot tell me that sounds the derpiest, funniest guy you've ever seen, right? We then have some other, I'm pretty sure this is Yodaka from Shinobi Undercover. They're with Greninja, another ninja, makes perfect sense. Hamari with Washing Machine Rotom. I get it's a whole series about, like, cleaning a house and doing all of that various stuff and, like, a harem based on it. And, like, oh man, there's all these forms of Rotom. Like, oh man, look, it's almost like a harem of Rotom. But, like, still, Washing Machine Rotom, I don't really know how I feel about that one. We see we have Gakuro with Mega Absol. That's pretty cool. I dropped the series so long ago. I don't particularly care. And then we have, like, oh yeah, look at Odor with Mega Charizard X. Why is that so cool, man? We then have Mecha Houndor with Ogami from Kill Blue, the nice prison guy with Klefki. I get it, it's a prison manga. Why not give him prison keys? Ha ha ha, right? And then just another one, the Harukaze Mound, Nagiharu with Mega Garchomp, Ping Pong Peril, main character Tiara with Meowth, I think is his name. And of course, Meowth is like, hey, making a whole lot of money. What's the series about? Making a whole lot of money. Kaidegami's Ko with, I don't know if that's, I think that's Mega Gyarados right there, so I think that sort of makes a little bit of sense. And of course, the final big one is, oh, look, that Ekinen Bros. Look, our main character, Nobunaga, is running with a Rapidash. That's pretty neat. But this is just honestly a really fascinating collaboration to me, and as a massive Pokemon nerd myself, I just find this to be a really cool collaboration, and I just wanted to talk about it more in depth than I really have here recently. But of course, as you'll see, whenever we cut this video back to the portions when I'm actually reading the chapters itself and like going back through them as I recap them, you're going to notice that the Viz Shonen Jump banner does not include any of the Pokemon. Of course, that's like, yeah, they didn't get any rights to that, so it's just like the regular guys, but it does look weird. Like, a lot of these illustrations are meant to be like, oh, hey, to mirror each other. Like, if we come over here and look at Yodaka, Yodaka's on one side, and then Greninja's on the other, almost hitting the same pose. So, like, it's, those two are supposed to go together in that way. Same with, like, Kyoshi and Gengar, right? And some of them you can get away with, but, like, it's just a little weird to have that, like, oh, hey, look, Akane's doing her thing, and then Wobbuffet is doing the same thing. Like, oh, it's a pair, it's a duel, it makes sense. And then it's just like, oh, yeah, but we didn't get the rights, so sort of is what it is there. But, of course, after talking about the issue cover, which I don't think I've really talked about the issue cover for a long time here on this series, but either way, it's always fun to sit down and see a really cool collaboration like this. But getting into the video itself, if you guys do not know how this series works, it is very simple, I think, considered. In the next, hopefully under an hour, I'm going to be sitting down and talking about all 15 series that I read in Jump this week, and by the very end of the video, we're going to go through and do a segment where I go through and rank all of these chapters from what I thought was my favorite chapter of the week, all the way down to my least favorite chapter of the week, and all of the other spots in between. So of course, like, hey, we'll choose the best chapter, worst chapter, and we'll see what fills in the other 13. And also at the end of the video, we'll be picking out who is my favorite character of the week. And normally going into these videos, I have like some sort of idea of like, oh yeah, who do I think is going to be my favorite and all that other various stuff, but there are so many good characters and good moments in this week of Jump that I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Kagurabachi chapter number 89. And hey, first thing I need to mention is we have a color page for Kagurabachi this week. It is both Aruha and Hakuri on it. Man, it's a pretty cool color page. Like, I really don't have too much else to say about it. It's just like, it's a Kagurabachi color page with more colors than just black, red, and white. It's honestly pretty nice to see, right? But this chapter of Kagurabachi is really just all about introducing us to two more players in this whole big conflict, in the whole idea of like, hey, we have the Kabanagi versus the Hishaku. And of course, on the Kabanagi side, we get introduced to Misaka's brother. Of course, you also learn what Misaka's name was, which was Ibuki Misaka, which is pretty cool to know. But in this chapter, we get introduced to Natsuki Misaka, who is a few years younger than his brother, and of course, he was not chosen to wield any of the enchanted blades during the Seitai War, and we just get introduced to him and see like, oh hey, here's all of his various characterization that we have so far. He's got a little bit of resentment for his brother, and who has a lot of resentment for is the sole Hishaku member who went through and killed his brother, the samurai Hishaku member who we saw Izami was fighting. And of course, on the Hishaku side, we get introduced to Hokuto, who is the Hishaku member who we get introduced to here. Really diving everything into him. We learned like, oh man, he went through and killed Misaka 1-on-1, while also sending this like clone puppet to also go and help assassinate Kunishige at the same time. So it's like, what in the world? This doesn't make sense in the slightest. Like, how powerful is this guy? We also see like this really cool thing where Hokuto goes through and like lights up a guy's cigarette by just like jamming his sword full of spirit energy and like cutting it off. And honestly, this was just a really awesome chapter of Kagurabachi, just focusing on meeting these new two characters and really learning about them. And I'll be very excited to see how they pretty much interact in the massive conflict that we are currently going on within Kagurabachi. So honestly, I thought this was a very good chapter. And if you want to hear my full thoughts on this chapter in like a 25-minute video, of course, I do Kagurabachi chapter reviews here on the channel, so go check out the playlist there. Just go to @Glowplasma, and you'll find the video pretty easily, right? But yeah, I thought Kagurabachi was a really, like, when I say really, I mean a really good chapter this week. Good one for sure, right? One Piece chapter 1156 is up next. And it is just so funny to me how Oda is now using the Loki flashback to, like, get everything about Loki, understanding him, to really just give us the flashbacks for everything going on in the world. Because, of course, like, I think Loki appears at one point in this chapter, but this chapter is really entirely based on the Kuja pirates, and, of course, how they were idols on the sea so long ago, right? And, of course, like, the old empress of them back in the day was this woman named Gloriosa. Apparently, we saw her during the Amazon Lily arc. I honestly don't remember that part of One Piece too well, so I'll just believe you there. And, of course, hey, at the same time, Shocky was here, too, and, oh, man, she was so big and powerful. And we also get a really fun moment where the Roger Pirates also come up and start to interact with all of these characters, and there's this whole idea of, like, oh, man, everybody's so in love with Shocky, and like, oh my gosh, look at this, Roger's in love with her, and oh man, she's in love with Roger also, except she's got eyes for someone else, and who knows, that may just be Rayleigh's. We see them interact a little bit, right? And it's honestly another really fun thing to when all of this is also happening. We see like, oh man, guys, a Navy ship is approaching, right? And Roger's like, all right, we gotta get up and out of here, and it's like, oh, wait a second, it's actually Monkey D. Garp who's approaching, and I love how Roger's just like, oh wait, disregard that order, like, listen up boys, we're gonna flatten them all. And it's just a really fun moment with characterization for all of these characters, and we even get this really fun panel where we see both Garp and Roger just like firing off hockey and punching each other. It's just like pure entertainment value in my opinion. It's like, oh yeah, eventually Shocky takes over the pirates, and oh hey, at a certain point it's like, hey, maybe Ida will help adopt Loki to give him the love he really deserves back on Elbaf. And hey, every so often Rox comes by Elbaf to try to be like, hey Harold, I want you to join my crew, I want you to help me, pretty much, right? And Harold always declines, but Loki always asks like, hey, can I come with you, can I do all of that various stuff? And the last note that we end this chapter on is the whole idea of, hey, we have this island, Full Lead Island, or Pirate Island, whatever you really want to call it, where we know that Blackbeard is currently, like, taking up his residence now, right? And it's this whole idea where this person named the Mobster Kyo, he's the future Silver Axe. I don't really know if we know this guy in any sort of, like, respect or anything. Like, if we do, I'm sorry, I'm just not that big of a One Piece buff, if you know what I'm saying. But, oh, hey, we get introduced to him here in the moment, and like, oh yeah, he's come to join the Rox Pirates, and like, oh hey, look, at this point, the pirate Captain John has joined up with Rox. Oh, look at that, Charlotte Linlin, along with Kaido, the pirate Sturluson, and the pirate Barbell. Like, hey, all of these people are joining up with Rox, meaning that Rox has this big and really powerful crew now, right? And the very end of the chapter is this whole idea of Rox going like, hey guys, listen up, I know that Elbaf is the key to taking down the Holy Land, and if you don't trust me on that fact, then you guys can all go ahead and get lost. It's up to you whether or not you want to follow me on our fateful mission of the day, but hey, I've got the stones for it, then stick around with me for a bit, and I will show you the peak of the world. As we just see like, hey, these right here, these are the members of the Rox Pirates. And it's just a really interesting One Piece chapter, going through all of this various stuff, just seeing how like, oh yeah, the Kuja Pirates, these idols of the sea, oh yeah, look at this, Roger was a big point during this time, and oh, the Rox Pirates were too. It's just a really fun chapter of One Piece, going through all of these things, and hiding it in the idea of like, hey, this is Loki's flashback, but also, we have to understand the context of the world around us to understand how we got to this point. I think that's just a really cool thing. One Piece had a really excellent chapter this week, right? And if we want to talk about just like excellent chapters in general, let's go ahead and talk about Ichi the Witch chapter number 45. As we also get a color page to open up this chapter of Ichi the Witch, and I should mention it, of course the lead color page went to One Piece this week. It's not really that much of a like unique color page for One Piece, so I didn't feel like mentioning it. But this one for Ichi the Witch that we get here is a really fun one, as we see both Kumagi and Spica on it, and it's just a really cool color pages. We just get this whole idea of like, oh yeah, Kumagi just looks so tense here in the moment. And of course, her sister Spica is just like, oh, so fragrant and like, oh, she's the best out of everybody here. And like just all of the elegance sort of almost radiating out of her, right? But as we'll learn in this chapter of Ichi the Witch, we really get to understand the character that Spica is as a person. And after just seeing like what everybody's reaction to this chapter was, I honestly did not call like this would be Spica's character trait in the slightest, but it's honestly funny how like everybody's like, oh yeah, I saw this coming from a mile away. And mainly that may just be to a part of like, hey, this series is written by Osamu Nishi, and they are writing Welcome to Demon School Aruma-kun, I think is what that series is called, which is a wildly popular series in the magazine that it runs in, and I think it's Shonen Champion maybe, or oh gosh, I really don't remember what magazine it runs in right now, but I haven't read it, so really what should I know? But apparently this is very similar to character traits that happen in that series, so it makes sense if you know one, you can really tell how characters are going to act in the other, right? But as we get into this whole idea, we learn like, hey, this is the structure of the Mantinal Witches Association, and we get this very good idea that like, hey, witches are the smallest, like at the top of the pyramid pretty much of like all of the characters in the Mantinal Witches Association, right? And then you have like witch cadets and then like senior witch cadets, and the people who are in charge of all the departments and who are at the top of their game are pretty much called the senior witch cadet captains. And this is what Spica is, for instance, right? And we also see, I think her name was Love Joe, who is like the wands and like magical items department like head lead. She's also captain. Of course, like the fashion lady that we've seen plenty of times, she's also a captain. And we get this whole idea of like, hey, whenever it comes for a new witch to be pretty much born pretty much and like come to the status of witch, they have to go through the whole stage of like cadets to senior cadets, and then it's the captains who normally get promoted to the highest tier of the witches, right? And a bunch of just these other witch cadets are like, oh man, like Spica, like we all thought you would have been the one to do next, but like I've heard these rumors, it's a man who's now in the Witches Association, like all of this is completely crazy, right? And Spica has a few things to say, being like, oh hey, well, I'm sure this decision was one made of all the top witches, so I'm sure it's made for like really, really good reason, and hey, just think about it this way, if men can be witches, that also opens up so much opportunity for everybody in the world, and like it'll breathe new life and hope into the world of magic, right? And as Spike is giving off this like very radiant air and all this various stuff, it's honestly a very fun thing, where we then cut to inside of Spica's mind. She's just like, oh my goodness gracious, all of these silly little girls don't have a single brain cell bouncing around in their silly little skulls. Like, officially protested the association? Like, have you guys taken the leave of your senses? Like, I just make more enemies if I did that. Like, that is the very definition of stupid. And to be utterly frank, the Mantinal Witches are like true monsters, like every single one of them. Trying to claw your way into the ranks is something that people just do who are foolhardy alone. And that's why this party here today is a good opportunity. The world's first male witch. Everyone of consequence will be watching this boy, and by extension, everybody connected to him. To those people will come fame, fortune, and power. And right now, the association sees this male witch as their most valuable asset. Thus, becoming close to him means putting myself in a position which the association can't ignore. In other words, being friends with this male witch is my quickest route to getting promoted to becoming a full witch. And to look even further into the future, maybe I could marry this boy and bring him into the family. It wouldn't be a bad move for sure, and if I could claim the world's first male witch as my husband, that would boost the Harvest family's influence even further. As we just get this whole idea of what Spica's mindset is going into all of this, and we understand here saying that she's done a little bit of a research and learned that this guy's name is Ichi. He's got 5 magics to his name, but also he seems to be like this very like feral brat almost, who doesn't listen to any orders and is just like, may not be what she's actually looking for to get close to, but she's going to have to anyway for her like big goals at the end of the day, right? And I just really love this characterization of Spica that we get here. And as all of this goes on, she's also like, oh, and how could I forget my sister Kumagi? Like, she's always been my favorite stepping stone. Like, being in the squad as this male witch, like, oh my gosh, like Kumagi, oh, that girl has always been amazing, right? And as all this goes on, apparently it's finally time for the debut of Ichi to finally happen, as we see like Shirobindona and Togi Ice are all there, and like, hey, introducing the male witch, and it's like, behold, as we see that Ichi walks out in all of his, like, royal garb, pretty much, like, oh, hey, you look so elegant and pretty here, right? And it's like, this isn't normally how Ichi looks, is it? And of course, this is, of course, Ichi. Like, I'm guessing it's like some body double or anything, but the whole idea is, like, he's just very apathetic about having to be put into all of these clothes and, like, follow all these associations, rules, and all this various stuff. It's like, hey, this right here is Ichi the Witch. And like, oh, hey, look at this. The squad leader is Descaros. We have the magic item crafter Gokuraku. Pretty cool title for Gokuraku here. And of course, the squad record keeper Kumagi. These guys are the new anti-human hater magic squad, Team Descaros. And everybody is just flipping out here in the moment. And as soon as Spica sees Ichi, she's like, oh, okay, wood. Oh, yes, very, very yes. More than very yes, extremely yes. Gallant aura, radiant complexion, confident demeanor, everything about him is just excellent. Looks, potential, attraction factor. I won't find a better prospect than him, and I can just tell by looking at his features. One day he's going to be a fine-looking man. Oh, I want him. Yes, I want you no matter what. Ichi the Witch. And that's where we end this chapter of Ichi the Witch, chapter number 45, and this was just so funny. Like, as soon as I turned the page whenever I first read this chapter on Sunday, and I just see Spica going, okay, wood. It is just one of those funny things. Of course, this is a slang term being used with the younger generation that, of course, I'm a part of. Like, oh yeah, I take that. Like, yeah, he's very hot. I like him, right? And it's just a really fun thing. And also in Japanese, there's a Japanese slang term. I think it was called like aru, which normally means like to be or something like that. And normally it's sort of like just been transformed like, okay, I take it, pretty much, like just a slang term in Japanese. So it's pretty cool how like the translators went ahead and like, oh hey, slang term, replace it with a slang term in English. It's just a really fun thing and just a really fun chapter of Ichi the Witch. I love Spica's character so far, and there is just so much fun to be had for sure. This was a great chapter of Ichi the Witch, right? Kill Blue chapter number 112 is up next. And at first, I really didn't know where we were going to be going with this chapter. Like, was Ogami just going to be fighting this polearm user the entire time? And what we see happen here is, hey, look at this. Ogami just completely obliterates this guy in like 3 pages. Like, oh, hey, look at this. Oh, I'm more powerful than you. And like, he breaks his staff in half, punches him in the gun. Like, right, I'm gonna go move on now, right? And then eventually he moves on to, oh, who does he find? He finds Norin's quote-unquote father. I don't know if we have a name for him, but as we're about to learn, he's not actually Norin's father, and like, oh yeah, because we have this whole idea of like, yes, this Norin Hoshio and all this various stuff, and because I don't know if we have a name for him or not, and I really don't feel like sitting down and finding it, I'm just going to continue to call him Norin's father for the sake of like, hey, that just makes the most sense right now. But the whole idea is Norin's father's like, oh hey, like, who are you? And eventually Ogami like transforms back into his old body and like, oh hey, look all this. They have this conversation, and eventually it gets brought up that, like, oh, yes, that girl's real name is Norin Hoshio, and she and Sochi Yakumo work together to engineer a new species of wasp, and those wasp venom could revert people to a younger age. And Ogami's like, what are you talking about? Like, this doesn't make any sense, right? And as far as I know, we do not know who this Soichi Yakumo actually is. Like, maybe we do, like, through name or something, but, like, I don't really remember this in the slightest, right? But as all this is going on, we get to the big, really crazy reveal of this chapter. It's like, oh, hey, right? Norin's father's like, hey, I really have to go through and torture all of these answers out of Norin so we can figure out what's going on here, pretty much. Like, hey, but here's the thing. I've not run out of people that you can fight, pretty much. These guys are some of the strongest that we have. Each one is nearly capable with the Metal Man as a staff. And of course, they've taken my company's drugs as well. And oh man, there's 4 other big-time assassins here in the room. They're all wearing these fancy masks and all this various stuff. And oh hey, Norin's father gets ready to leave, and he leaves Juzo to fight off against these 4 people. But of course, would you believe this? Somebody is here to save Ogami, and we see it's actually 4 people. And it's 4 older people. Oh, do we know like 4 older people in the series? But like, oh, wait a second. That's Sheen. That's Tin Matindo. That's Justice Guy. And that's Student Council President Subaru Ichijo. They're all here and older here in the moment, right? And as we'll pretty much find out, because of all of the data that Ogami had brought back from this mansion before, Eri was able to pretty much like reduce, transduce, and like do all these various things to pretty much make a drug that instead of reverting somebody to their older state, just makes them about 10 years older. And of course, all of these characters have taken advantage of this fact and have come here to save Ogami in the moment. And it's like, oh hey, Ogami, you go ahead and deal with Norin's father here in a moment, and the rest of us four will take on all of these hitmen here. And that's where we end this chapter of Kill Blue. The whole fact of like, hey, same thing that happened with Principal Oka fighting apparently his clone. We still don't have any resolution on that. Are we? I legitimately do not know. But the whole idea of, okay, yeah, we're going to push you away here in the moment. Ogami, you go face the big bad guy. And it really reminds me of that Harry Potter movie. I forget if it's like the first book, the second book, or the third book. I think it's either first or second. But it's the whole thing of like, oh, hey, through all of the challenges, you pretty much got to be like, okay, I'm going to say here, Harry, you go on to the next thing. Oh, I'm going to say here, deal with this. You go on to the next thing. And I'm pretty sure there's other tropes that have done that, but like, that's just the immediate one that comes to mind for me. And to be fair, I'm not a fan of the Harry Potter series. Like, I experienced everything, but like, I didn't even finish the 7th book because I just like didn't care. But like, this whole reveal in Kill Blue, though, just really leaves me wondering where we are in this series of publication. Because like, on one hand, this feels like it could be in-game. We're getting all this stuff with Nora, and like, oh, all these characters have aged up here in the moment, even if it may be temporary, to help Ogami out. And Ogami still has to go through, deal with Norin's father, and there's all these like big things like, oh, the Suit Council president, like, oh, hey, he's going through and now fighting with Oka, and like, all these reveals are like sort of coming together into one. But at the same point, really just, where are we? Like, who is this Yakumo person? Are we going to learn that in like in the next 10 or so chapters, like the next 2 volumes worth of material? Kill Blue is going to be done? Like, I'm just so confused and really just don't know where this series is going. But yeah, good chapter of Kill Blue. I can't wait to see old Tenma Tendo fight something. I like Tenma Tendo. To see him older and fighting somebody is pretty cool. And also, I like the Justice guys here again. He was one of my other favorite character of one of the unicorns, so it's pretty cool to see him here, right? But Kill Blue, I did very much enjoy, right? Well, moving on to the next one, Ruri Dragon chapter number 36 is really all about Ruri going through and studying with all of her friends in this whole big study thing, right? Of course, we're all over at Kashio's house, and because it's Kashio's house, hey, her sister Ariru is here, and she's helping out Ruri, teaching her to study and all this various stuff. And really, the big moment of this chapter comes at the very end, when it's like, Ruri's like, hey, everything's over, they had a great time studying, hanging out with each other, and hey, Ruri just like asked her mom, like, hey, can you tell me more about my dad? And that's just really where we end this chapter off on. There's a little bit of another moment where Ruri is like going through and studying, and Mieda like takes a look at her eyes as some of the other girls are like talking about Ruri's like ice form and how her eyes are almost glowing. And we see that Ruri's eyes were pretty much going through and like almost had this like circle pattern in the eyes and like 3 lines coming off on each side about equal distant from each other. And it's like, oh, that's a little bit of an interesting thing there. Like, what's going on there? But really, this is a simple chapter of Ruri Dragon, and one that I did enjoy, but just one that I don't have a lot to say about this week. But I did enjoy Ruri Dragon like I always do, right? Harukaze Mound chapter number 8 is really just the whole confrontation between Ataru and Nagiharu once more on the mound. It's like, okay, hey, Ataru's up to bat, and Nagiharu has to do something to pretty much help his team win here in the moment. And of course, this is the moment where we see, hey, this is what Nagiharu's strength is, and it is in the ball called the Rising Slider. As we see, like, hey, this just, like, catches Ataru off balance whenever he throws in, like, whoa, what's all this stuff going on here? And like I said in the past, I don't know how to explain baseball, and this is really where it comes into play. Like, it's a really cool thing seeing Nagiharu come through and, like, hey, he uses his Rising Slider here in the moment after this whole idea of, like, hey, I, in the moment, have to prove to Ataru that Ibuki is right, because I am the one who has to show that Ibuki was right. And if I can show that to Ataru, that means Ibuki was correct at the end of the day. And it's a really cool moment, and he's like, and that's me, I'm the only one who can do this. And like, he throws the ball, but like, oh no, what everybody thinks it is like that low sinker ball is just an illusion as it rises up into the air. And it's just a really cool thing, as like Ataru isn't able to hit it, and like, oh, the next one, Ataru's getting ready to hit it, but like, is this a lower fastball or the rising slider? And that's a cliffhanger we end this chapter off on, is this whole idea of like, hey, which one is it? Is Ataru going to make the right choice and hit the ball correctly? And hey, which one is it going to be? I personally think that it's going to be another rising slider here in the moment, and Ataru's going to be like, it's going to be the low fastball, I wouldn't do the same one twice in a row, and he's going to get tripped up on it, or he's going to guess correctly, and he just still misses it here in the moment. But a really good chapter of Harukaze Mound, and yeah, this series is just really good, and it's just showing that, like, a sports series can succeed in Jump, or at least I really believe one can. But if we're going to be talking about a series that may still survive in Jump, but at this point, I don't really want to stick around and find out, let's talk about Kaidegami chapter number 7. And on one hand, this chapter is fine by all means. The whole idea is the Tiger Shinguai is fighting Ko, and Ko is just getting completely overwhelmed. Of course, this guy has a part of Chiyo's hand, and we see that, like, he sort of starts to ingest a little bit of it, like taking its power to make himself even stronger, and he is just overwhelming Kyo, like, just consistent, like, oh, hey, doing this, and, like, Ko just can't keep up at all. And eventually, as all this happens, Ko gets knocked out, leaving just Chiyo here to be like, oh no, Ko's not responding, what am I going to do? Like, is he going to die on me here in a moment? I can't let this Tiger Shinguai defeat him and do all this stuff. So eventually, Chiyo makes a decision and takes over Ko's body. And that's where we end the chapter on, is this whole idea of she being like, hey, you're not going to treat this boy like this, pretty much. I'm going to kill you. I am the power of a god. You're using my power to get this strong. I'm going to destroy you here in the moment. And on one hand, this is one volume into the manga. This is a pretty cool thing, all things considered, right? Oh, hey, look, taking over the body, like, it makes sense, but this honestly was not the power-up I was wanting here, and as I mentioned before, I was a little disappointed whenever we hopped into this whole idea, and it's like, oh, hey, Ko is fighting with the Shinguai and doing all this stuff, and, like, I didn't want to just start off and be this big confrontation. I wanted a little bit more build-up to it, like having to search around, and eventually we find him after some mystery solved and fight all of these guys, but I don't know, like, there's a whole thing a few chapters ago, too, of, like, hey, I would learn just how powerful Chiyo's body part is, pretty much, and, like, I understand, like, Ko's knocked out here, but I just don't like this whole idea, because, like, hey, Ko's going to fight, but whenever he does fight, Chiyo's always going to be there, and yes, there may be something like a restriction, like, hey, every time I do this, like, I lose a part of myself, so I can't do it constantly, or it takes a massive toll on both of us, and if I do it too much, I may disappear, or something like that, but honestly, this just wasn't a reveal I was really into, and I read 7 chapters of this series, presumably what will be in the first volume, but yeah, I just don't have really anything to say about Kaidegami chapter number 7, and to the point where I just don't think I want to read this series anymore, so I hate to say it, guys, but at this chapter, we are going to be going through and dropping Kaidegami, because it's like, I don't know, I just didn't like this reveal. I really wish it'd be like, yeah, I think I've said my piece on it, and yeah, Kaidegami, I enjoyed reading it for 7 chapters, but this reveal and this whole confrontation with this Tiger Shinguai really just wasn't my favorite thing. Maybe I'll catch back up on you here in a few chapters, because, like, hey, I dropped Shinobi Undercover like 11 or 12 chapters in, and since then, I have heard people, like, raving about how good that series has become, and hey, at some point, I want to go check that out, and maybe I need to drop Kaidegami and come back to it in a few chapters, and maybe that's just how it is going to be. But Kaidegami, yeah, I'm going to say, you didn't really move me this week, right? But with all that out of the way, we're going to talk about a chapter now that did actually surprisingly move me, and that is Ekiden Bros chapter number 6. Now, the beginning of this chapter is really about getting introduced to all of the characters within the dorm where Nobunaga is currently going to be living at. What is this? I think it's called Odani University. We get introduced to the manager of the team, and the manager's name is Ririn. Hey, she's like this Garu girl. That's pretty cool. We also learn about the head coach of the team. His name is Dozan Himejima, and we pretty much learned from him that yes, so far in the series, we've really heard about the Hakone Ekiden, like this really big race, and like that's what everybody's getting ready for. But of course, there are other Ekidens in the world, and like, hey, the Oga Ekiden is coming up pretty soon. And of course, Nobunaga, you are going to be running in it along with the other guy who you ran with last time. I don't remember his name, but like, you're sort of teammate guy, right? And you two are going to be running in the Ekiden, but also more importantly, Sekoto University will also be there as well. And this is like a big deal for both Nagiharu and of course a lot of the other members of this team. And the whole idea is like, hey, we're really planning to go all out whenever all of our first years, like the coach, or when all of our third years, like the coach, get to their third year to make really the strongest possible team we could get, right? And the whole idea is also that Nobunaga is rooming with the coach. I think his name was Kinzaki or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But the whole idea is, as Nobunaga is sleeping at night, the coach is like, hey, Nobunaga, I really want to beat Sakoku. And Nobunaga's like, yeah, I mean, I just want to compete against all the guys I grew up with, pretty much, right? And eventually it gets to this whole idea where the captain's like, oh, then you're gonna have to get pretty strong then. And Nobunaga's like, oh yeah, like, I'll give it plenty of practice, and I'm sure, like, as time goes on, like, I'll be as good as them, right? And eventually the captain's like, all right, get ready then. And he's like, gets out on a race, like, hey, we're going for a little afternoon run, or late night run, or really whenever this is going on. As we see these two get out and start to do a little bit of running around the area. But Nobunaga just, like, can't keep up whatsoever. And as all of this is going on, his name's Matoi. That's what his name is, right? And eventually, it's this whole thing of, like, man, like, something's wrong with Matoi. And he's like, oh, you're definitely a good runner, Nobunaga, but you have an overwhelming lack of pressure. If we're going to beat Sakoku, you need to learn how to fight for real. And hey, listen up. Long distance running is a battle that breaks your mind. As the last 2 pages of this chapter is this really big 2-page spread where it's just looking at all these 2 characters here in a moment, and all of the trees almost just like in this like fishbowl eyeglass effect, like warping around, and like just the light coming off of them here in the night is like, hey, look, the Captain Matoi's just like, hey, this is a big deal. And yeah, that's where we end off Ecton Bros chapter number 6. I'm gonna be real, I thought this was a really good chapter, and I just absolutely can't wait to sit down and just read more of it. Like, this chapter, like, legitimately got me hyped for what's going to be going on in the future of this series. So yeah, like, from starting off on a very, like, negative note with Ecton Bros to all the way to now, like, yeah, I just want to see this series succeed a little bit. And like, hey, we may just get 19 chapters, but is what it is. I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more than I was enjoying Kaidegami this week, that's for sure, right? But with Ecton Bros, that means we have one more newbie series to talk about. Of course, Ping Pong Peril, chapter number 5. And of course, this chapter is the continuation of the battle of course, Tiara and Kirari, that's what her name is, in the bathhouse, right? And this chapter is just a crazy one, because the whole idea is like, oh, hey, you have to remember, Tiara is trying to hide this whole idea from his sister Momo. She's on the other side of the bath, and as all this is going on, oh, look, Tiara's playing with Kirari, and they're going back and forth. He scores a point on her doing all this various stuff. But eventually, Kirari pretty much goes over and grabs one of the water nozzles, right? And pretty much just points it over at Tiara's direction and turns it on, as we see, like, oh, man, this is actually a very high-pressure thing. And it almost, like, stings Tiara whenever it hits him. He's like, damn, like, what is all this? Like, that's, like, very strong water pressure, right? And eventually, Tiara's like, how am I supposed to beat this? Like, this girl is literally crazy, right? And so just going on playing some more, and we eventually get the whole idea that, like, hey, what Kiara is doing here is pretty much going through and is trying to, like, direct Tiara in one sort of direction or another, right? And as we see all this is going on, oh, hey, we see that Kiari is trying to direct Tiara into a bathtub, and we see as all this goes on, she fires off a shot using one of these bath pots and like swings it over one day, and Tiara has to pretty much leap into this bath to end up going through and hitting the shot back, and we see it works. Like, he scores a point on her. But whenever he falls into this water, he is giving a nasty electric shock, as Kiari just explains, like, oh, that right there, that is the 1 million volt electric bath. And I don't know how much you guys know about electricity, but I know a decent amount, and I can tell you for sure, that's deadly. That is very more than deadly. Like, okay, maybe he's a little bit wet, so, like, all of the electricity has another path to pretty much take, and, like, not to his vital organs and all that, but, like, yeah, 1 million volts electric bath, like, yeah, that's pretty deadly for sure, right? But Tiara's able to pretty much get out of it, and like, oh no, but whenever he gets out, his bath pot that he's been like hitting the ball with is also melted, and almost like is melting like rubber or something like that, right? And he's like, oh man, I'm about to pass out, like, what can I do? And it's a really fun thing to whenever Tiara eventually goes around and hits the ball whenever it comes to him next, and uses this rubbery texture on the bath pot to give the ball almost a spin effect, right? As we see the ball goes around, and it starts to go and get hit into this electrified bath, pretty much, right? And whenever it does this, it goes into the water, and in the water it spins, and all of a sudden starts to turn around and go back to hit Chiari in the face, right? And of course, as balls normally do, it pretty much takes a jet of water, of electrified water with it nonetheless, and this goes through and hits Chiari in the shoulder pretty much. It's like, oh no, she's been zapped here in a moment too. So, because of this, she's been shocked, and Chiari's able to get another point or two on her, and the whole idea is like, hey, Chiari's like, hey, here's the thing, if I knock you out by default, Chiari, I win, which means that this game can't end without even needing to score 11 points, right? The whole idea is like, hey, this is a smart idea, but you haven't beaten me yet, though. And Chiari's like, hey, I guess I'll have just to hit you again with that bath, pretty much. And like, hey, let's finish this already. And that's where we end off this chapter of Ping Pong Peril, chapter number 5. This is what I've been wanting from this manga, are these stupid events where it's like, oh, hey, we're going through, we're playing ping pong, and would you believe it, there's a bath with literally 1,000,000 volts running through it. Deadly stuff, but Tiara's strong, he's gonna be fine. He's like, they're playing ping pong. You get, like, natural resistance whenever you're playing ping pong, pretty much, right? But they're going through, doing all of that, and, like, this high-pressure, like, water hose, too, like, it's just a lot of fun random things, and I just can't wait to see how crazy this series is going to get. This was a really good chapter of Ping Pong Peril, and one that I, like, this was just a good chapter. What else can I say? I really enjoyed it. Well, next up is Himeno chapter number 53. And let me just say, welcome back, Nisekoi, because this chapter is all about, of course, Himeno, or, well, okay, what was her name again? I forget what she's called, actually. I'm actually going to figure that out real quick. It's Himeno, I think? Yeah, Miss Himeno is what Iomori calls her. I'm sorry, I don't know why I forgot that. Like, okay, here's the thing. Every time I see Iomori be like, oh, Miss Himeno, I always think Shinji saying, oh, Miss Masato from Evangelion. So I'm like, oh, hey, let me just remember it that way. But, like, I have no excuse here. Like, I was just forgetting stuff, right? But this whole chapter is about, oh, hey, Iomori has a new neighbor. Who would you guess it would be? Oh, it's Miss Himeno. Wow, that's pretty crazy. He's living next to an idol. And it's one of the funniest things ever, as we learn why this happened, is because Himeno's parents own the building, and because of that, like, this is where she lives, and now that she's an ex-idol, like, that doesn't really matter anymore, right? And the whole chapter is eventually just like, oh man, they live next to each other now. Wow, Iomori has her number. That's pretty cool. And eventually, like, Iomori goes over to her apartment to help her out. Oh wow, she's an older student, so that means she gets drunk. Oh my gosh, would you believe that? And she's going through all of these things, wearing very revealing outfits next to Iomori, and Iomori's like, what is going on here, right? And eventually, the big thing with this chapter is like, oh boy, Iomori is heading to school now. And whenever he gets to school, everybody's like, oh my gosh, like, there's no way, look who's at our school anymore. It's like, oh, it's just Yoshino, like, everybody knows she goes here. And then we get the whole idea of, oh no, there's a new teacher at Iomori's school. And it is none other than Miss Himeno here in the moment. She's like, oh, hey everyone, I joined the faculty. I'm looking forward to teaching all of you. And Iomori's like, oh no, what, like, are you for real right now? This was a chapter of Himeno, as stupid as this is, as, like, stupid, insane, and crazy. Like, of course, this is the whole parallel of, like, oh, hey, it's, like, Yui from Nisekoi, and granted, I like this situation a bit better than I did in that series, for the main reason of, okay, Yui was, like, this sister character to Raku, and, like, they grew up together, and because of that, it was just weird stuff that sort of went through to happen with it, and, like, of course, we're being the whole teacher at the school. It's fine, whatever. But I do like this a little bit more, being that it is a person who Iomori is getting close to in another way, but in the moment, they also become a teacher at the school. I like the way this is done a lot better than the way that, of course, Yui was done, but sort of is what, it's still a little bit of a weird thing. Like, oh yes, the teacher-student relationship in the high school scenario. It's one of these things, like, it's manga, what I should expect it by this point, but also, I can't lie and say this chapter also just didn't put a smile on my face as I read it, and, like, this is so stupid, like, what am I reading this for, right? But Himeno chapter number 53, you were a chapter, alright, like, I don't have anything else to say about it, right? And if we want to talk about other chapters that existed. Ultimate Exodus Kyoshi, chapter number 55. Hey, the beginning of this chapter is pretty cool, I think. As we see, I think his name was Mr. Yamada, if I'm not mistaken, but he was the demon that Kyoshi ended up saving and helping out in the very first chapter, or the one that was, like, possessing the person. It was, like, teaching Kyoshi, like, how to calm down, do all of that. We see that he's like, oh man, I hope Kyoshi's doing okay, right? And, like, just out of nowhere. And, of course, here in the moment, Kyoshi has, like, unlocked all of his power, pretty much. Like, all of his tattoos are glowing, and he's fighting Asura Wrath. Oh man, they're going back and forth. And there's a little bit of an interesting thing here in this chapter where we see that Asura Wrath, like, refers to Kyoshi as, like, the reincarnation of a person named Solomon, which, of course, Solomon is, like, a biblical name of some sort of thing, and it's a little bit of a weird thing, like, oh, hey, like, we meet again, Solomon, but, like, oh, hey, you're my current date, Kyoshi, like, I shouldn't be talking about other men in front of you, pretty much, right? But they're just going back and forth, fighting, like, doing all of their things, and eventually we see that Asura Wrath uses an ability called Gigantomachia, and on one hand, it looks pretty cool. He's got these two, like, demon wings, and, like, he's holding up his arm, and, like, almost like a black orb is, like, forming in the sky, cracking everything around it, but, like, I just can't think to, like, oh yeah, My Hero Academia, Gigantomachia, one of the League of Villain members. I know that guy, right? So it's one of those funny things there, but Kyoshi's like, hey, bring it on. I'm gonna exercise the hell out of you, great demon lord Asura Wrath. And we end the chapter with, like, hey, Kyoshi is pretty much, like, bring all of his energy into a ball in his hand to fire off at Asura Wrath, and Asura Wrath has this Gigantomachia orb he's getting ready to fire off at Kyoshi, and that's where we end the chapter. Man, it was just, like, fine. It wasn't amazing. I do like a little bit of the intrigue of, like, oh, hey, this Solomon person, and, like, oh, Kyoshi's a reincarnation, like, are we getting more of this? It's like the same thing with Kill Blue. Are we getting more of this series? Are we going to be going into, like, an angel arc where we're, like, dealing with angels or all of the other higher ranked demon lords and doing all of that various stuff? Or, like, what is everything going on here? So, yeah, Omega Tsukoshi, it was fine. I just don't really have too much to say about it here at this point in time. But what can I say? Good, decent enough chapter for sure. And another good old chapter was Akane Banashi, chapter number 169. Haha, that's a funny number, plus 100. I get what Akane Banashi was doing here in the logical progression of, oh hey, between chapter number 168 and 170, we have 169, right? But of course, this chapter is all about Karashi taking the stage, and we get a little bit of, like, an idea of, like, oh, hey, remember Karashi was always so good at all of these various things in high school, but whenever he got into Rakugo, he was completely, like, torn apart by Akane's initial performance, and since then, he has wanted to just win simple as that, right? And eventually, we get into the whole idea of Karashi sitting down and telling his story of Rakugo to the world. As he just, like, starts off and, like, hey, throughout human history, much has been made of rumors. The kanji for rumor consists of mouth on the left and respect on the right, which is funny because most rumors are not particularly respectful. In politics, you have stories of corruption. Among entertainers, actors, or typical rumors of scandal and adultery. The common people would delight in such rumors today, just as much as they would have in the past. As you understand it, the story that Karashi is telling here is a story called Monkey See, Monkey Do. And it's about this kid named Sadakichi, who is a newspaper man and hears a rumor about a popular actor's infidelity, and he sets out to uncover the truth. As you just see Karashi go through and tell the story here in the moment, and as he's telling it, we see one of the judges who is, I think this judge was more of, like, the general, like, audience judge, is sitting down here and thinking, like, oh, wow, like, this is weird, like, actors and adultery, like, news coverage and, like, acts of unfaithfulness that cost somebody everything. Like, this is a story about a topic that has remained relevant throughout the ages. It's like, man, like, I really didn't know there were classic Rakugo stories like this. And as we see, like, the comedy guy the comedy judge who is sitting beside her, is like, oh, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, like, I'm in the variety show business, like, I really don't know that much about Rakugo here in a moment, right? He's like, oh, hey, I'm aware. They brought you here as a judge to represent the general audience, right? He's like, however, you would actually be wrong about that statement. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry for speaking out of turn, right? And she's like, well, wait a second, like, what do you mean by wrong? And the guy just says, like, oh yeah, under your breath, you said that you didn't know that there were classic Rakugo stories like this. And that's the thing. That's where you're wrong. There is no classic Rakugo story that goes like this. And I love the panel we get here of Karashi telling the story, and we just see the general audience judge, her image is just flipped over as she is shocked here in the moment, right? As comedy judge just explains, like, hey, my title is a guide to the arts. Like, I've listened to over 6,000 Rakugo performances in my life, and I can tell you for a fact that even all the top stories, like, I'm really only familiar with the ones that are super and extremely popular. And that means that I can tell you for a fact that there is no classic Rakugo story like this. And she's like, oh, but, like, what is this guy performing then? As comedy judge just says, like, oh, he's using the backdrop of the classics as the foundation for an entirely new Rakugo story. As we just get this whole idea of Karashi using one of those digital drawing tablets, and he's going through, using one of these pins, sitting down here in a moment, and drawing this picture that looks like it's from an old time, but of course, in a modern setting. This whole idea that Karashi's whole strength here in the moment is rewriting the modern day as a classic Rakugo story. And he's like, hey, the story I tell contains something modern and relatable inside the trappings of traditional arts. An entirely counterfeit take on the oldies. A false classic. As we just get this whole idea of this is Karashi's specialty. This was, oh my god. I'm getting the chills after going through this chapter again, because it's legitimately one of an amazing thing of being like, oh, hey, he's telling the story about this monkey see, monkey do, like, reading about, like, oh, hey, scandals, news things, like, this has happened in the entire world. It's human nature to go through and do these things, and of course, talk about them and want to seek out the true answers. And then, no, oh, wait a second, like, there is no classic Rakugo story that goes like this. And just seeing how Karashi's whole idea is melding these stories into what he wants to do, it's... oh my gosh, it's such a cool thing. This was such a good chapter of Akane Badashi, chapter number 169, seeing Karashi do his thing. Just, what can I say besides, this chapter was absolutely amazing. Karashi, your false classic. I can't wait to see more of it. This was awesome, right? But in the context of another really awesome chapter, let's talk about Blue Box, chapter number 206. And honestly, I don't have much to say about this one. It's really just like Hina going back and delving into some of her old feelings for Taiki. Like, the two of them are on the bus, or on the train, heading back to, I think they were in Kyoto, they're heading back to Tokyo. I forget where they're from here in the series, but they're going back to their home places and, like, just talking with each other, reminiscing on some things, and Hina just thinks about, like, how much Taiki has meant to her and all of this various stuff, and, like, how she may be regressing into some old feelings that she had when it looks like she was getting ready to push past all of them. And I know it just knows a little bit of a weird thing, but I just don't have much to say about this chapter. It was a good one for sure, but I just don't have much commentary on it. It's just simple as that. But Blue Box, chapter number 206, I did enjoy for sure. The Elusive Samurai, chapter number 213, was also a little bit of a weird one, as it really just focuses on Takayuji as his mind and body are pretty much breaking due to the god's influence inside of him. As we see, like, oh, he goes through, it seems like he just outright kills Tadayoshi through, like, vomiting in his mouth, or, like, vomiting blood, or, like, it's something weird, wild, and random. There's actually a person in the comments of the Viz page, wherever this chapter is hosted, that said something about, in history, Tadayoshi was all actually killed by poison, so a little bit of a weird thing to be like, as much as the series tries to, like, stick to all the big historical beats while also making it like, oh yes, I hope you know, Tadayoshi is a reason for the Black Plague. It's one of those things where it just seems a little off for Matsui not to have Tadayoshi actively killed by poison here to but it does, like, it's not like it's a big complaint. If I didn't read that comment, I wouldn't have this whole thing to say about it anyway, right? But the whole idea is just all of these cracks that are forming in Takayuji's being, going through and, like, oh hey, he's having to go through and deal with, like, oh, Tokoyuki is still out there places, and just, like, his body and mind are just breaking completely here in the moment. It's like, it's just this moment of, like, oh, hey, I'm free, my life is as bright as a rainbow, but, like, all the darkness that's actually surrounding him, all the blood that's, like, coming out of his hands, he killed all the people he cares about. And it's really just Takayuji realizing, oh, the influence that this god had on me, I'm starting to lose all of it and come back to my senses. but I have still done all of these horrible things. As we just get narration to end off this chapter saying like, hey, Takayuji has always been healthy, but suddenly he came prone to illness. Eastern medicine views sickness as a god leaving the body. The god of Takayuji had begun to separate from the towering figure it had once loved. And that's where we end this chapter of the Elusive Samurais. It's really just building up, hey, Takayuji's going crazy. He's going to have his conflict with Tokuyuki pretty soon, and when that happens, it will be a big deal to end off this series. Good chapter to the Elusive Samurai. I definitely did enjoy it. And with that, we have the 15th series we were talking about today, and of course, that is none other than Witch Watch, chapter number 212. And I knew this chapter was going to be an emotional one from the time that I first opened it up and saw the chapter title. As you understand, this chapter is titled Childhood's End Part 1. As we pretty much understand that Nico's mom this entire time has been going through and collecting a bunch of magic butterflies. And hey, she's collected the last of them, and as far as we know, she's collected 31 of them, and so far, we see that Nico has gotten back about 60. I think it's actually a bit closer to about 101 so far, so hey, whenever she gets the last of these butterflies, she's no longer going to be her 14-year-old self, and she's going to be back to her regularly scheduled 17, 16, 18, however old she was supposed to be in this series, but she is going to be back for normal, and whenever this happens, she will be leaving for a month to go and live with her mother in the, pretty much the village of all the witches and all that various stuff, right? And of course, it's the whole idea where, hey, Nico's going to be gone for the first time in a long time, and whenever that happens, yeah, Morito is going to try to come with her because he's got that big parental instinct for her now. And this really causes a big rift between both Nico and Morito. She's like, hey, Moi, I'm different than I was. Like, I know how to act and do things for myself. Whenever I get back to my body, are you still like, dote on me and do all those things that you do? Because, of course, we know that Nico has a crush on Morito, and, like, Morito does have that, but he's been in parenting mode. Like, we know all of this stuff about the series. It's been very well written so far, right? And as all this happens, we see the two of them have a little bit of a fight. It's like, hey, Morito is specifically being told that he can't come pretty much. And eventually, we see that Nico and Connor are walking home from the grocery store. And they're just having a little bit of a conversation, that's the word I was looking for, about the whole state of affairs and how Morito's, like, not been paying attention to Nico here recently. And eventually, it just gets this point here, and Nico's like, maybe I shouldn't tell him how I feel here in a moment, right? And I love how Kanja goes like, hey, I mean, I don't know. That's not a question that I can answer for you, Nico. But the one thing that I can say for sure, though, is that when he's gone all stubborn like this, there's only one person who can bring Morito out of his funk, who can loosen him up. And Nico, that's you. And like, hey, deep down in his heart of hearts, he'll fall for you all over again. And I can tell you that for sure. And we just see that, like, this resonates a little bit with Nico. She's like, hey, thanks again, Con, right? But as all this happens, it's Saturday, Nico's getting ready to leave, and they're going to pretty much be hosting a big party to pretty much like, hey, well, we know you're going to be back in a month, but whenever you come back, you're not going to be the young Nico that we all have been used to for pretty much the past year, right? And we see, like, hey, everybody's here. Momochi came over, of course, Bond's here, and of course, all the familiars of the Otogi household are all hanging out here. And Morito's just, like, hanging out in the corner, not really doing much of anything. And Nico just is like, hey, guys, I made all of these lovely charms for you all, and hands him out, like, hey, Momochi, here's yours, Kanchi, Bon, Keigo, Miharu, Morito, like, here are all of these charms, pretty much, right? And the whole idea is she's like, hey, I also have a little bit of a note I want to read all of you before I leave, right? And she starts to read, and she's like, hey, to everybody in the Otogi household, to everyone. And of course, Nico's getting a little emotional. She's starting to cry. She's like, thank you so much for raising me. And, like, they're all starting to cry a little bit. And God, she's like, oh, no, stop. Like, what the heck? This is not what tonight's about. Like, what about we don't do this here in a moment, right? And I love how Miharu's like, just let her finish, like, reading the letter, man, right? But Nico just continues saying, like, hey, when I turned into a baby, I lost all my memories. But I do remember not being scared at all. I knew that all of you were there for me, doing everything you could to protect me. Kanchi, thank you for always doing stupid and silly things with me, and for always listening to me, and being there for me at all times. And Keigo, You're like an older brother figure to me. You taught me a ton of things, and you even made a game for me. You're bashful, but you're always there to watch over me. And Miharu, I know you're supposed to be the baby of the house. I'm sorry for stealing that spotlight from you. But now I'm big enough that we can watch and laugh the same things, eat and enjoy all of the same things as well. You're like a best friend who's closer to me than anyone. And Momochi, thank you for being like a mom to me and spoiling me like a mother would. Being here so far away from my own mom, I was really glad to have somebody like you around. Bon, you joined us to look after me as a little girl, doing all the things the others couldn't do for me. You're like a big sister, a little sister and a pet to me, all in one. And you will always be the precious and my most dear partner. And Nico just looks up and sees all of the characters in the house that are just like crying, and they're just so sad, like, oh no, Nico's leaving, she's not going to be like this anymore. And eventually, Nico just looks over to Morito, who still just has his face buried in a magazine. As she just says, like, hey, and last but not least, Moi. Dear Moi. And that's where we end the chapter on, is just this moment, and oh god, like, it almost makes me want to cry, just this panel of we see Morito sitting here, reading this magazine in front of him, and just the framing of, we don't even see Morito's face, but we see Nico in the background just saying, Dear Moi. It's laid out so well, and next chapter is going to be an emotional mess, and I just have to get used to it. I know that's how it's gonna be, but this was such a good chapter of Witch Watch, seeing Nico do all of this stuff, and presumably next chapter we're going to get to her confessing to Morito, or at least just thanking him for literally everything he's done, and just get a really nice, cute, and wholesome moment before she heads off to become herself once more. And yeah, this was just a really good chapter of Witch Watch, man. Like, literally, what can I say? Like, it's just good. There's a reason that Kenta Shinohara is one of my favorite mangas of all time, and that's because he produces stories like this that make me get emotional, and manga is a really hard thing for a manga to truly get me emotional in a moment, and Witch Watch is just so effortlessly does it sometimes, and I mean, just what can I say? Good chapter of Witch Watch, man. But with all of that out of the way, I've rambled about all 15 series. I've been recording for about an hour and 10 minutes, but I think I took like a 15-minute break or something in there. I actually don't know how long the break was, but I did, and I honestly want to know, can you guys tell where I took the break? I didn't, like, announce it or anything, but so leave me in the comments down below. Let me know in between what chapters you think I took a break, and I think that'd be pretty fun, right? But either way, let's go ahead and sit down and rank all of these chapters from the worst to the best. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm dropping Kaidegami, so obviously, I think it was the worst chapter of the week. It's just sort of how it goes. Just like, yeah, it was a chapter, that's for sure. With Kaidegami, what are the other chapters we want to put next? I honestly think we're going to put Ulti, if I could spell that correctly, Ulti Extra Kyoshi right above it. Just, like I said, it was an interesting chapter, intriguing chapter, but not really too much else to it. I think we're also going to put Haru Kaze Mound right above it. For the simple reason of I thought it was a really good and hyped chapter, but whenever I look back to all of the chapters this week, it was actually the one that it was the most forgettable. Like, I'm recording this video on a Tuesday, hopefully uploading it on the same Tuesday, but like, out of all the chapters, like, Harukaze Mountain was just the easiest one for me to sit down and be like, oh yeah, what happened again? Like, Nagiharu's Rising Slider was cool, it was cool how it was framed, but it's just forgettable, and that's always one of the worst things that a manga series can be, in my opinion. Above that, we'll put Himaten, just a random chapter, man. Like I mentioned, it is just so random. Like, oh yeah, Himeno is the teacher now. That's fun. She's a neighbor to Iomori. But Nisekoi, I love that series. Welcome back, Nisekoi. Himaten, I'll give you that credit pretty much, right? And above Himaten, we'll throw in a Kill Blue. And with that, we now have Blue Box, Elusive Samurai, One Piece, Ekinen Bro. I think we're probably going to throw Blue Box next. Like I said, just not a big chapter for me to talk about a lot about. The Elusive Samurai we will throw right above Blue Box, if I can figure out how I spell that, because, like, I don't know why. I just can't spell the Elusive Samurai sometimes, like, who knows? Honestly, we'll throw One Piece right above it. Piece, that's how you spell that. And then Ekiden Bros right above One Piece. It feels so weird placing that series so high up, but it was just a good chapter. What can I say, right? And this is where it gets really hard. Ichi to Witch, Akane Banashi, and Witch Watch were definitely my top 3 chapters of the week. But Kagurabachi was also really good and all of that too. But I definitely think that Ruri Dragon and PPPPP, or not PPPP, Ping Pong Peril, I need to change this abbreviation, but like, what else am I supposed to change it to? Pong? Like, I don't know. Honestly, though, I think we're going to grab Ruri Dragon and throw it right under Ekiden Bros. I think we're going to move Ekiden Bros up one more slot, so we're going to come here, throw Ruri Dragon right there. I spelled Dargon, it's Graon, Dragon, that's how you spell dragon. And right above Ekiden Bros, we'll throw a Ping Pong Peril. And with that, Ichi to Witch, Akane Banashi, Witch Watch, and Kagurabachi. Whew, this is a hard one this week, man. Okay, Ichi to Witch had the Spica chapter. It was fun. I liked seeing it. I think, though, I'm going to have to give the chapter of the week to Akane, if I could spell, Akane Banashi. I loved the moment where, like, hey, this is a false classic of a story. It was built up so well, and of course, it's been a while since we've seen Karashi perform, so this was just a really cool thing, all things considered. I thought Akane Banashi was excellent. Probably throw Witch Watch up next. Then we'll throw Kagurabachi, and right under Kagurabachi, we will go ahead and throw Ichi the Witch. Ichi the Witch. And yeah, I like that ranking. I get some good ones. So again, going through it again, Akane Banashi was my chapter of the week, followed up by Witch Watch, Kagurabachi, Ichi the Witch, Ping Pong Peril, Ekiden Bros, Ruri Dragon, One Piece, The Elusive Samurai, Blue Box, Kill Blue, Himatin, Harukaze Mound, Oma X's Kyoshi, and Kaidegami. Again, we're going to drop Kaidegami because I'm just simply not enjoying it. And with that, who was my character of the week? Akane Banashi had how do you spell that? Karashi. I liked him. I thought he was really cool. Witch Watch, I don't think any character stood out, really, but just a good chapter. Kagurabachi, I really liked Hokuto's entrance. I thought it was really fun. Ichi the Witch, Spica, how can I say no? Ekiden Bros, like, I even liked my Toys whole thing of, like, man, long distance running is, like, a massive battle, pretty much. I thought that was pretty fun. Ruri Dragon, One Piece was good. Blue Box had its moments as well with Hina. The Elusive Samurai, Takuji was cool. Really, I think we're going to give it to 2 characters this week, very simply because, like, Karashi was cool, and also I just like Spike. No, we're gonna give it to 3 characters. It's always hard whenever something like this comes up, and it's just so many cool characters firing off at once. But I'm going to go and give it to Spica. Or no, let's just give it to Spica. Well, we don't need to give it to Akane Banashi's Karashi and Hokuto. They'll do things later. I also just thought Spica was fun this week. Yeah, we'll just give it to Spica from Ichi the Witch. I think that's pretty fair right there. And yeah, that's Glowplasma. Talked about 15 manga chapters in presumably just over an hour, with one break in between the recordings. So yeah, that happens sometimes. But again, thank you guys so very much for watching this video on Weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 36-37 of 2025. And hey, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks whenever we sit down and talk about issue number 38. It's going to be weird having an issue without Jump because, like, I don't know, it's just always weird whenever we get one. Like, I'm so used to reading manga every week and then we don't read it, so it's like, what am I supposed to do now, right? But if you did enjoy this video, thank you for watching it all the way to the end. Like, I just can't say more than that. But also, if you did enjoy it, I cover plenty of other anime and manga related content here on the YouTube channel. And I've also literally covered every single issue of Weekly Shonen Jump since, like, issue number 43 of 2024. So, like, I've almost talked about a year of Shonen Jump straight. So if you want to hear any of my thoughts on any of those issues, any of the chapters within those issues, go ahead and check those all out. There'll be a playlist link down in the description box of this video. And also, this goes up on podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So go check it out on podcasting platforms like those. And if you're listening on podcasting platforms, well, come see some of the actual video itself on the YouTube channel. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say. Really good issue of Jump this weekend. With all that out of the way, I'll catch you guys next time for issue number 38 here in 2 weeks. Until next time, I'll catch you guys then. It's Glowplasma 231 signing out.